It is another interesting edition of the Economy and Politics Show where we bring you key economic developments as they affect the households. Today, our conversation will be looking at, of course, the political scene. The month of May is a brand new month. I would like to welcome all of you to the month, a decisive one, as Nigeria's political season kicks off. And this edition, our conversation will be policy options to restore Nigeria to the pathway of economic stability. It's needed quickly. And my guest is Professor Kingsley Moghalu, a political economist and 2023 presidential aspirant under the platform of the African Democratic Congress. Thank you, Prof, for joining us via the Zoom platform.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, Prof. Before we begin the conversation, to our viewers, let us give you a wrap-up of political economic stories from last week. The federal, state, and local governments of the Federation of Nigeria shared 725.57 billion naira from the Federal Allocation Account Committee for the month of March 2022. And also last week, the Africa Development Bank announced that it has mobilized $540 million to support the development of agro-industrial processing zones in Nigeria. We go on a break, and when we return, the conversation will continue.
Tune in to Web TV Daily to stay up to date and informed on the financial market, personal finance, and more. We have got you covered with all your favorite TV shows, economy and politics, market review, women's series, millennial talk, Islamic Finance Weekly, The Brief, exclusive interviews, events, and we keep you up to date on all the updates in the financial market with the market opening gong. Watch premium content. Watch Web TV. Same news, different perspective.
Welcome back. If you're joining us, it's the Economy and Politics Show, and our conversation today is around policy options to restore Nigeria to the pathway of economic stability. And my guest is Professor Kingsley Moghalu, a political economist and 2023 presidential aspirant under the platform of the African Democratic Congress. I know, Prof, it has been a busy period for you, and the month of May is very critical as you look at the political scene. But let's first begin by asking you, what is the most pragmatic economic model that can drive national development and lead millions of people out of poverty in Nigeria?
Well, thank you. I think given the nature of Nigeria and Nigerians, who are very, very dynamic and very resourceful, that the Nigerian state and the capacity of the Nigerian state at this time is actually very weak. What I would recommend is a market-driven developmental state for Nigeria. That is to say, a strategic type of capitalism where the market allocates resources efficiently, but the government plays an important role in creating incentives and creating an environment for business to thrive and for the economy to grow, and to grow in an inclusive manner. You see, let's step back a little bit when we talk about what's the economic, what's the best economic system. Yeah. The reason Nigeria's economy has fared very poorly in the past 60 years in comparison to the promise that we have is because, especially in the last several decades, with the introduction of democratic politics after the military regimes, and with military regimes of some of the mistakes that they made. The reason we have fared very poor is because Nigeria's economy is not based on a very clear philosophical foundation. There is no country in the world that has become economically prosperous based on a clearly defined economic philosophy. In Nigeria, they call these kinds of things speaking grammar, quote unquote. People think they can come out and start quoting statistics and technical solutions, or what they call practical solutions, But there is no practical solution that can work if it's not based on a sound theory. This is what we don't understand in this country. And this is why we see that all the economic decisions in Nigeria are made mainly on a political basis, not on a rational basis. And that's why poverty is very high in Nigeria. Unemployment is very high in Nigeria. Inflation today is very, very high. So what Nigeria needs is a political leadership that is economically competent and provide political leadership based on understanding, based on competence, working with the kind of team that is, very sound, competent, but must be directed by the president. Now, there are 4 issues we have to understand about what's the best kind of economic system for Nigeria. The first thing is that we have to understand the balance between, the state and the market. It rates Nigeria's economy to reach potential. Right now, that balance is skewed disproportionately towards the state. And this is suppressing the productivity of Nigerians. It's creating a lot of corruption because wherever government is excessively involved in the economy, it creates opportunities for rent seeking and arbitrage. Those who have connections to the government get rich, but the average man or woman on the street does not have opportunity. So this is a very important problem that needs to be addressed, the balance between the state and the market. Nigeria's government today has tried to run what I would call a statist kind of economy. The government is trying to allocate resources, determine the price of fuel, determine the price of a lot of things. Yeah. But the government itself does not have the capacity to manage the market. You have this type of situation in China where the state actually runs things and runs them efficiently and effectively. In the 50s and 60s, Nigeria's governments, both federal and regional, ran corporations and ran those corporations competently and effectively. But today, there is nothing that the government of Nigeria can run or touch that does not die. This is the outcome of our toxic politics. The politics has brought competition for political power to the top and made it a winner-take-all, and does not care about competence, does not care about education, does not care about a vision, does not care about capacity. All that we care about is getting power and rewarding politicians. No economy can grow if it's run on this basis. So therefore, since the state is weak in its capacity, and by the way, there are 3 areas that you use to assess a state in terms of its capacity to govern. 1, the ability of a country or of a government to collect taxes and spend taxes effectively and efficiently, revenue generation. Yeah. 2, the ability of the country to defend its territory, the capacity to actually be in control and to be the only legitimate form of violence that can take place. That's number 2. Number 3 is the capacity of the government to, to give out public services to citizens efficiently, like say healthcare, and other services that the government can provide for its citizens. On all those 3 counts, Nigeria lacks the capacity. So you see, therefore, that the government, as it stands today, is not able to manage Nigeria's economy, and yet, because it doesn't have the capacity, and yet is so involved in that economy. So the balance between the state and the market needs to be looked at and reorganized. Yeah. The second aspect is that you have to have an intellectual understanding of capitalism. That understanding of capitalism is in 2 very important ways. 1 is to understand what are the essential requirements for a capitalist economy to create wealth for citizens, to make the average Joe, average Emeka, Adamu, Omobola, wealthy. There are three aspects of that. The first is property rights. The second is innovation. And the third is capital itself, access to capital. The management of Nigeria's economy does not show an understanding of this intellectual framework that I have shown, I've explained to you. Nigerian politicians and Nigerian economists, I must also criticize Nigeria's economists, because we have many, many economists in Nigeria, but Nigeria has remained very poor. The reason for that is not just because of the economists themselves, although that's partly the case, because many Nigerian economists are technical economists. They don't understand that what creates the wealth of nations is, economic philosophy and political economy. They think that it is all these stochastic equations and all these models, and all those things are just, they work where the economy is already developed. But in a country like Nigeria, what we need is a sound economic philosophy and a proper political economy that is managed in such a way that the country can actually achieve development. We're not there yet. So I was explaining that these three things are very important. Look at Nigeria today. We have the Land Use Act. So all the land is controlled by the state, or most of it anyway. Where you have that sort of situation, Nigeria cannot grow. Nigeria cannot achieve prosperity because, the major factors of economic production, land, capital, labor, land is locked down. It's not freely purchasable or exchangeable. Therefore, a lot of economic potential that can arise from the free transfer of property rights is not happening in Nigeria today because there's a massive bureaucracy around C of O. You cannot own land without a certificate of occupancy. And when you do, you cannot own the land in freehold, in perpetuity, to do as you wish. It's a lease for 99 years by the state. This limits a lot of possibilities for Nigeria. So that's one. Number two, so I believe that we need to take a second look at the Land Use Act. I believe it needs to be abolished. Okay. For Nigeria to become a wealthy and prosperous country, the Land Use Act has to go. Number two, innovation. The wealth of every wealthy nation in the industrialized Western world and in Asia has been based on people inventing things and commercializing those inventions.
Innovation.
And people finding ways of doing things that are much more efficient and effective. That's what we call innovation. So we don't have that in Nigeria, or we have it, but it's not being properly managed and harnessed and given incentives to grow. A lot of young people in Nigeria are inventive, they invent useful things, but nobody supports them. You see their photographs in the pages of newspapers, and after that, they're gone. They're frustrated. Intellectual property rights are not respected in Nigeria. We must have intellectual property rights and a patent system, a system of patents where when somebody invents something, it is registered, patented, and from that patenting and owning that property right, he or she becomes wealthy from his or her brain. Because there must be investment in that invention. It must be commercialized and sold in the markets. And the person who invented it is getting a percentage of everything. The middleman who is supplying is rich. The retailer in the shops is getting rich. 400 years ago, most of the world was poor. The only people who were rich were the kings and the queens and the landed gentry, the noblemen, the nobility. It was the Industrial Revolution, the invention of the steam engine that developed railways and many other inventions that happened within a space of 200 to 300 years that democratized wealth in the Western world.
Okay, Prof.
So in the property rights as they were invented and wealth became democratized. Those inventions also improved the quality of life and made the population far more productive. For example, the flushing toilet improved healthcare massively.
Yeah.
I consider that the greatest inventions of all time. Otherwise, the alternative is very unhealthy, filthy, and just not good. Then you have the telephone, the Morse code. Then you have aeroplanes. Then you have computers. Then you have the refrigerators. Then you have traffic lights. All sorts of things which have made human life far more efficient and effective and of much higher quality. And with all these inventions in automation, the ability of companies to produce cheaply, massively, and at better profit has risen. So innovation is an important secret of the wealth of nations. The third is capital. You cannot be a successful capitalist without capital. Now, in Nigeria, capital is expensive. Bank loans are almost unpayable. The state itself is not generating revenue because it doesn't have an efficient tax system. So how do we ensure that people have access to capital? As we go further in this interview, and when perhaps I might have the opportunity to tell you more about my presidential aspiration and why I would make the best president for Nigeria in 2023, I will answer these questions in terms of solutions. Then the fourth thing, finally, when you're talking about the economic system, is for us to understand that there is a difference between economic growth, economic development, and economic transformation. A lot of times our policymakers are confused. They're confused because they're pursuing economic growth, the GDP numbers.
There's a need to always clarify the difference between economic growth, economic development, and economic transformation. I get your point.
Exactly. Yes, that's the point. A lot of our policymakers don't understand this. They say our growth numbers, our GDP numbers are 3%, or they're expected to be 3% in 2022 or whatever, and they're happy. But you see, GDP can grow for any number of reasons, including if the oil economy is doing well. But how many people does the oil economy employ? How many people have skills? What is the poverty rate in this country? About 45 to 50%. Nearly half of the population are extremely poor. What is the literacy rate in Nigeria? Only 62%. You see, what is the life expectancy? Again, just about 64%. So we're very low when it comes to quality of life, which is what development is all about. So we must focus on human development, the ability of the population to be healthy, to have basic health care, to have skills that can create jobs and to become a productive economy. That now calls into question education and the education system. So we don't focus on these things, we focus on GDP growth. Wrong. So you must first focus on human development, then move to economic growth, and then on that basis move to economic transformation, which happens when an economy is no longer dependent on raw materials or one single product, to earn, foreign exchange or basically I'm talking about a truly diversified economy that manufactures and exports value-added goods.
Okay.
So this is the difference that is necessary as a foundation for economic leadership and management in Nigeria. And it doesn't exist at this point.
Okay, Prof. Thank you. You've really laid out a very broad analysis to understanding the model Nigeria needs at this time, particularly the need for us to have a balance between the state and the markets, a capitalism that works for the populace. You talked about intellectual framework, sound economic philosophy. I mean, that's a big discussion point that we should have ahead of the general elections, even as we're having the primaries this period. But Prof, let's look at ideology, because that's part of the challenge we have in the electoral cycle. Ideology is very important for political parties. That's what differentiates them and give people the options. For the African Democratic Congress, what is the core ideology of your party?
Well, the core ideology of the ADC is a grassroots libertarian party. That is to say, a party that is focused on the people, which is the essence of democracy. Democracy is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But in Nigeria today, you have government of politicians, by politicians, for politicians. The ADC is in a different place. We are grassroots focused. We believe in a free market developmental state. We believe that the government will have to play an important role in creating an enabling environment for the creation of economic prosperity. So, for example, I believe, and my party believes, that the government should provide certain basics, for example, social security for the aged, people who are old, people who've spent all their working life, should be able to be protected to have a decent livelihood when they can no longer be productive. These kinds of things define our view of the role of the government. But we don't believe that the government should run markets and determine the price of things. That is one of the reasons you have the huge fraud that is the fuel subsidy in Nigeria today, and many other things. And we have problems having a decent minimum wage. It's because of the absence of proper economic philosophy and balance. So that's my view on our philosophy.
Okay, now, Prof, I mean, like you started by saying that some people try to say, oh, he's talking theory and all that. Professors always tend to talk theory. But when we look at global economies, look at Brazil and its transformation, you remember Professor Fernando Henrique Cardoso, a political sociologist, and how, like, you
absolutely,
said, balance between the markets and the state. Or you talk about a rural economist, Professor Manmohan Singh of India, who transformed India.
Yes.
So, yes, we have Professor Kingsley Moghalu, a political economist. Why are you the best man to lead Nigeria, a nation that you talk about politics, you talk about capacity, and sometimes you hear words like having a war chest to be able to win elections? Why is the best man in this time when you have other seasoned politicians also on this race?
Well, we've had these seasoned politicians for the past 23, 24 years, and the quality of life in Nigeria today is horrible. That is the fruit of their political experience. So we must move away from that, because it's clear that that is not the answer to what Nigeria needs today. Nigeria today is beset by poverty. It's beset by terrorism. It's beset by very high rates of unemployment, 33%, one of the highest in the world. And when you consider youth unemployment, it's 54%. So the quality of life in Nigeria is horrible, and it's getting worse. We're getting into a Hobbesian state of nature where life is nasty, brutish, and short. So what 2023 calls for in terms of political leadership is not the usual. We must move away from the usual, because it's the usual politics and politicians who have created what we're all complaining about. So do we reward them by recycling their failure? No. We must now go to individuals like myself who have the capacity to address the practical problems that Nigerians are facing today. The problems of national security, the problem of nation building. The country is not a nation. It's a country, but it's not a nation. We don't have unity of purpose. We don't have unity of vision. We have a very divided and fractious, the whole issue of Nigeria itself and what Nigeria means to each and every one of us is highly contentious. Then you have the problem of the national economy that has collapsed. Then you have the issue of foreign affairs. I, more than any other aspirant in Nigeria today, I am prepared by my track record of success and my experience at leadership level in these four areas of the economy, nation building, national security, and foreign affairs to be president of Nigeria today, that can restore Nigeria's standing in the world, revamp Nigeria's economy and create jobs for our teeming youth, heal the nation by manufacturing consensus around an idea of Nigeria that we can all agree on, creating a national ambition that rises above the things that divide us, and securing the lives and property of Nigerians. Let me explain how my experience fits perfectly into all of these requirements of the president of Nigeria in 2023. So we're not looking for the greatest politician. If we make that mistake again, it's goodbye to Nigeria. The politics of winning votes in Nigeria is not a guarantee of good governance. So the people of Nigeria should elect people who can give them good governance. If you elect people who are very good at politicking and bribing voters because they have stolen government funds that they can distribute to poor people and get their votes, we will regret it. In fact, we may not even be around to regret it after 2023. So the time calls for something different, something new, something bold. And I believe that's the sort of thing I offer. As a United Nations official for 17 years, I led nation-building teams in Cambodia, in Rwanda, in the former Yugoslavia, in Croatia. I helped to rebuild broken nations that went through the kind of problems Nigeria is going through now. If I can do it in those countries, I can do it for my country. That's one. I have managed diversity. In the United Nations, it's the mother of all diversities, 200 countries you're dealing with. People say Nigeria is diverse and it's complex. I laugh. I can run Nigeria in my sleep. I'm telling you, because of my experience with managing complex diversity. The reason we say Nigeria is complicated is because we have not given an opportunity to someone with the kind of competences that can actually manage Nigeria's complexity successfully. Somebody who is not a tribalist, somebody who is not a religious or ethnic bigot or irredentist. That's who I am. I am in Nigeria, not just representing one part of Nigeria or the other. No. And that is why I have said that I'm running for the presidency of Nigeria as a Nigerian. I'm not running an ethnic candidacy. My message to Nigerians, elect me as president because I am capable, I have the vision, and I have the capacity to execute it, not because of where I come from. So even though where people come from is also important in the context of inclusion and nation building and all of that, but it's not for me the primary purpose I'm running for president. I'm not running for president because I'm Igbo. No, I'm running for president because I can fix Nigeria's economy. I'm running for president because I can make Nigerians secure and they can sleep with two eyes closed. I'm running for president because I can create jobs for young people. I'm running for president because I will restore Nigeria's prestige in the world. So I have had a long career in the UN that has prepared me in terms of international complex security operations involving counterterrorism, involving intelligence across national borders, and Nigeria faces these kinds of things today. I'm running in the UN. I had this nation building experience I've just explained to you, and I have experience in traditional diplomacy, which is the theory and practice of international relations. I'm an expert in it. Then, as a central bank deputy governor, I was at the commanding heights of the Nigerian economy. And in the time I was there, I was part of a leadership team that achieved great success. And I myself played specific individual key roles in the achievement of that success. Whether it is bringing inflation down from double digits to 8% in 2014 as a member of the Monetary Policy Committee, whether it is stabilizing the Nigerian banking system after the global financial crisis as deputy governor in charge of financial system stability, whether it was the introduction of the bank verification number as deputy governor for operations and all kinds of payment systems reforms that have made fintech such a huge thing in Nigeria today, ahead of many other countries in the world. So these are the kinds of experiences and track records that I have. That's why I say that I'm the man for Nigeria in 2023.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Very interesting conversation, particularly on what should be our pragmatic economic model to move this nation forward, because as you all know, poverty is on the rise and we need to address it so that it doesn't become a national disaster. Thank you once again, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, a 2023 presidential aspirant under the platform of the African Democratic Congress. We wish you all the best as we get into the primary season, and hopefully we'll engage you further, of course, if you're the flag bearer, which we'll be all watching out for. Thank you once again for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been very nice talking with you. And I want to say before I leave that key to achieving a lot of the things, a lot of the plans I have for Nigeria is a massive and fundamental reform of the educational system of our country. That's what will give the youth a very new, brand new lease on life in Nigeria.
Yes, we've seen that happen in Brazil and India and South Korea, and I believe it can happen in Nigeria with the right reforms. Thank you very much once again.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. That'll be all for this edition of the Economy and Politics Show. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions on policy options to restore Nigeria to the pathway of economic stability, please send them to Ottoabasi Abasiekong at Promotional.co for those conversations. Now, to all our viewers, you've seen this conversation today. It's the beginning of an intense political season in the country, even down to the 2023 general elections. And this particular month, we'll be engaging politicians, economists, and experts on critical topical issues that will shape the elections. So that's what you'll be expecting to see, and you'll be getting that through the month. Also, just to tell our viewers that as part of a drive to improve service delivery to the market, ProShare has migrated to a seamless and dynamic website. That's www.proshare.co. That is the website, and we enjoy you to log on to read our latest news articles, stories, and reports on the Nigerian economy. Once again, it's www.proshare.co. You can engage us on our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Thank you for being part of this show. Till we come your way again, have a nice day.